When you think of the best NFL teams for the last 25 years, who do you think of? The 2007 Patriots, the 2013 Seahawks, maybe the 2019 Chiefs? But do you think of the 2010 San Diego Chargers? Most likely not, because this team finished with a 9-7 record and missed the playoffs. Yet this team accomplished something that had not been done since 1996 and has never been accomplished since. Statistically, this team was ranked as the #1 offense and defense for the 2010 season. A team so good they averaged almost 400 yards and 27.5 points per game, while holding opposing teams to only 270 yards and 20 points. Their quarterback, Philip Rivers, led the league in yards and was top 5 in touchdowns for the season. Antonio Gates led the league in receiving touchdowns amongst tight ends. How is it possible for a team to statistically dominate their opponents but finish with such a mediocre record? This is the story of the 2010 San Diego Chargers. The Chargers were coming off a disappointing finish to their 13-3 season from 2009, where they had been eliminated in the first round of the NFL playoffs. They were definitely looking to make the playoffs and make a much deeper run this year. The team was almost identical except for the loss of the 2006 MVP LaDainian Tomlinson, who had requested to be released in the offseason. The Chargers were going to lean on their other key players like Philip Rivers, Antonio Gates, and Malcolm Floyd to make up for his loss. Like any NFL season, the story of this team starts in week 1. The Chargers would dominate the Chiefs, holding them to less than 200 yards and accruing almost 400 yards of total offense on their own. However, a major theme of what was going to come for the season occurred. After stalling out at their own 34-yard line, San Diego would have to punt. Dexter McCluster would field the punt at the Chiefs' own 6-yard line and return the ball 94 yards for a Chiefs touchdown. While the Chargers would continue to amass yards and try to make a comeback, they were unable to and ultimately lost the game 21-14. A rough start to the season, however, they would quickly bounce back in week 2 when facing off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chargers would steamroll the Jags in a 38-13 victory while accumulating 477 yards of total offense and forcing 6 turnovers on defense. Much more of what you'd expect from a team that would inevitably lead the league in both offense and defense. But something else occurred during this game that might not have seemed meaningful at the time. Late in the second quarter, on the Chargers' first punt of the game, the Jags special team unit would be able to block the punt. Although it might have seemed small and meaningless in a game that was a clear blowout from start to finish, there should have been major concerns raised on the Chargers' sideline, yet they would happily celebrate their first victory of the season. The Chargers would travel to face off Seattle in week 3, where they would once again dominate the Seahawks in the stats column. Racking up an astonishing 518 yards of total offense, forced 2 turnovers on defense, and had a safety. The team would trail by 10 though entering the second half due to 3 different fumbles from offensive players. Coming out of halftime, they would immediately allow Leon Washington a 101-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Yet thanks to their explosive offense, they were able to remain in the game and held the Seattle offense to just 3 points after the kickoff return. Philip Rivers would be able to once again drive the Chargers down the field and tie the game 20-20.
The 20 and stays on his feet. Leon Washington is off to the races once again. Does he have the closing speed? Washington is gone. Touchdown, 90.
The ensuing kickoff, his second return of the game. The Chargers would have one last attempt to tie the game, but Philip Rivers would throw a costly interception and remove any chance of a comeback. They would then host the Arizona Cardinals in week 4 and once again show off how truly good of a team they could be. The Chargers would finish the game with 419 yards of total offense and hold the Cardinals to just 124. This game was an absolute beatdown wire to wire with a final score of 41-10. During this time, it was clear that Rivers had found his favorite target in Antonio Gates, who caught his 5th and 6th touchdowns of the season. Things seemed to be heading in the right direction, and this could be the turning point they had needed. In week 5, the Chargers would travel to their divisional rivals, the Oakland Raiders, and would be heavily favored. But their issues in special teams continued, and in just the first quarter, they would allow 2 blocked punts by Oakland. One would travel out of the end zone for a safety, and the other would be recovered for a Raiders touchdown. Having 3 blocked punts in a single season ties the 2010 Chargers for 3rd most in NFL history. The Chargers would not be able to get out of their own way in the first quarter and turn the ball over twice on fumbles. However, the enigma of the Chargers season would continue, and they'd once again outgain the Raiders 506 total yards to just 279. Late in the fourth quarter, while trailing by just a single point, they would drive down the field and enter field goal range. Once again, though, they would shoot themselves in the foot when Philip Rivers would be strip sacked and the Raiders would recover the ball for a 64-yard touchdown return. San Diego would be unable to recover from this mistake and ultimately lost the game 35-27. Clearly another disappointing loss for the team, but 2-3 is not an impossible record to overcome. It was still far too early in the season to write this team off, especially considering they were coming off a 13-3 record in 2009, where they had started 2-3 and managed to run the table. Still hoping to keep their season alive, they would travel to St. Louis to face off with the Rams in Week 6. For one of the only times in the entire season, the Chargers would be outgained by just 17 yards. But once again, a slow start and a Philip Rivers interception, and the Chargers found themselves trailing 10-0 early. After a San Diego field goal and a Rams score, the Chargers would find themselves in a 17-3 deficit entering halftime. But the Chargers would come roaring back in the second half with a quick touchdown to cut the lead to only 7. After trading off defensive stops, the Chargers would find themselves with a 49-yard field goal attempt to cut the lead to 4. Special teams would once again let them down as the Rams were able to block the kick, and with good field position, they were able to get a field goal of their own. While Philip Rivers was able to get the Chargers into the end zone late in the fourth quarter and cut the lead to just 3, San Diego's defense was unable to stop the Rams from getting first downs, and they would ultimately lose the game by 3 points. Exactly what they would have had without the special teams blunder. Along with the loss, the Chargers would lose their top receiver Malcolm Floyd with a hamstring injury, and they would find themselves in Week 7 facing off with the New England Patriots at home. New England was a heavy Super Bowl favorite and was expected to easily handle the Chargers. And as the theme of the season continued, San Diego would get off to a slow start and turn the ball over 4 times with 3 fumbles and an interception. They would trail entering halftime 13-3. Coming out of halftime, New England would run down a majority of the third quarter and score a touchdown to take a 20-3 lead. However, it was not possible to slow down this offense when they got out of their own way. San Diego and New England would trade field goals before the Chargers would go on a 4-minute touchdown drive with Rivers finding Gates in the end zone. The Chargers would elect an onside kick and manage to recover the ball. This would lead them to drive down the field and set up a 1-yard touchdown run to cut the lead 23-20. The Chargers defense would come up big for the team and force a turnover on downs against the elite Patriots offense. Philip Rivers would have another chance to lead the Chargers on a game-winning drive. They would ultimately stall out at the Patriots' 32-yard line with less than 30 seconds left on the clock. This would set up a potential game-tying field goal.
Some crucial kicks. Brown now from 50 to tie it. Brown's kicked it better. Hit to the hurry. It hits the upright.
But San Diego's special teams would once again let them down, and the Patriots ran out the rest of the clock. At the end of the game, the Chargers would have more than double the amount of yards as the Patriots, but special teams play and turnover had once again been their undoing. The Chargers found themselves sitting with a 2-5 record and tied for last in the AFC West. Over the next 9 games, the Chargers would struggle with injuries to key players on both offense and defense, which only makes what they did even more impressive. Antonio Gates would only play in 3 more games for the remainder of the season. Malcolm Floyd would return from his hamstring injury after the Chargers bye in Week 10. However, he would re-injure it in Week 13 to miss an additional 2 games. They were able to finish their last 9 games with a 7-2 record, but due to the untimely turnovers and costly special teams play, it was impossible for them to regain the ground they had lost. Ultimately, they would finish with a 9-7 record and miss the playoffs. What part shocked you the most about the 2010 Chargers season? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading about it.